Okay, let's get started. It's our very last thesis today. And, honestly, we've had all the presenters have been so good this year, especially here at Salazar Scenario, but they've been good all through the last 2 weeks. You guys have been great. Really appreciate your hard work this year. So our last presenter, I was convinced by Alice when she said this, the crowd doesn't want to hear about laxatives as the last thing they hear. And that's probably a good idea. It's probably a better way to leave to talk about teachers. And so every year, I can tell you every year, Mrs. Strickland tells her staff, her teachers, she says, you will never be paid how much your value is, right? What you're worth. You never be paid what you're worth. And that's true. Teachers are so valuable, and yet their salary's kind of low. And so I think it's a great topic. Kirei's going to talk about teachers and their pay. And so we actually have a school board member sitting right here on the panel. And so, Kirei, no pressure. But the livelihood of all our teachers depend on your speech right now. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. Let me see Kirei's words. Forgot to pull them up. Kirei's words. I would like to thank God for giving me the strength to push every single day till I'm at this point right now. Mr. Wade for supporting and helping me throughout this whole thesis. Thank you for always being patient with me, even though I always submit my everything a week late. Mr. Abed as my advisor, my parents who always support me. Joe for helping supporting me, and staying up late to accompany me making my thesis. No wonder Joe is always so sleepy. But most importantly, I'd like to thank my mom and those people who work as a teacher. Thank you for all the sacrifices that all of you have made, and for your dedication and passion for educating all of us. Her thesis title, Working 9 to 5, What a Way to Make a Living, The Excruciating Life of Teachers. Welcome, Kirei, as I get the timer set up. All right, you can start whenever you're ready.
A young woman with a master's degree clocks into work at 8 in the morning. She works real hard all the way till 4 in the afternoon. Not even given an ounce of rest, she rushes to her side job at a clothing store in the mall just to make do. Getting home, she unpacks and continues with the work she brought home from her first job. She gets a text from her best friend inviting her to his wedding. She was ecstatic. While planning and crunching for the numbers of the trip, she realized something. Even with all the months of time she has to save, it was impossible for her to make enough to pay for the trip. She rethinks her life. 60 hours a week she works. And for what? Unable to even attend her best friend's wedding. Utterly devastated, she tells her friend she cannot make it. Drained, depressed, embarrassed, she crashes onto her bed just to get into the next day and redo the whole process all over again. This is the story of Kara Stoltenberg, a high school English teacher in Norman, Oklahoma. Even with a master's degree in education, even with working a second job, even with all the hours she puts in, she cannot even afford to attend her best friend's wedding. This is the devastating and unfortunate circumstance many teachers face today. Teaching has been one of the oldest and most important professions in the world. Think about it. Out of all professions that we know, teaching is the one profession that creates all other professions. Ki Hajar Dewantara, the father of Indonesian education, established a Japanese philosophy in 1922 that is still very relevant in today's world of education. His slogans of Ing Ngaso Tung Tulodo, Ing Madya Mangun Kakso, and Tuturi Handayani, or translated into in the front should set an example, in the middle should take initiative and cooperative, and in the back should give support, emphasizes the importance of teachers' role in our society. Their responsibilities are beyond teaching in class. They have to set an example for their students, raising students' creativity and supporting and guiding them towards a better future. With all of their responsibilities and dedication, an old saying in Indonesian goes, Guru adalah pahlawan tanpa tanda jasa. Teachers are the unsung heroes of our society. Tragically, the status of unsung heroes becomes even more accurate with the low salary they receive compared to other comparable college graduates. Starting in the 17th century, teachers slowly fell from grace. From being highly respected, they became underpaid and mocked. Things got even worse after the Great War, where teaching became female-dominated, pushing the agenda of underpaying teachers even further. Now, in modern times, teachers are overworked, underpaid, and dishonored for all the work they do. In 2021, on average, teachers earn 23.5% less than other comparable college graduates. Indonesia specifically pays their teachers the worst out of the neighboring Southeast Asian countries with the average of only 2.4 million Indonesian rupiah per month. These stats leave no room for speculation as to why the prospect of becoming teachers does not excite people anymore. The issue of teacher underpayment is even more evident now since the world is experiencing a shortage of teachers. Indonesia's Ministry of Education has announced that Indonesia will experience a shortage of 1.3 million teachers in 2024 due to large numbers of teachers retiring. This is where the problem lies. Teachers are going extinct and society does not care. This is an extremely serious problem just like malnutrition. Just as malnutrition disrupts a person's overall health, teacher underpayment disrupts teachers' quality of life and the whole education system. We need to know how to properly address this issue. The existing efforts that we have right now are not enough to resolve the problem of teacher underpayment. This is why school institutions and government should increase teacher salary due to three main reasons. First, increasing teacher salary would significantly improve teachers' overall well-being. Second, increasing teacher salary would benefit the future of our nation. And lastly, increasing teacher salary will promote better international diplomacy. Ideally, increasing teacher salary would significantly improve teachers' overall well-being. As a matter of fact, teachers' quality of life heavily depends on a higher salary. However, teacher responsibilities currently dramatically outweigh their pay grade. Teachers tirelessly educate students, build their value and characters, and often work beyond school hours, sacrificing their personal time and self-care. But what do they get in return? Sadly, very little. Angela Chen, a high school teacher in Waterford, Ireland, once said, "We are so focused on the students because that is our job. But whose job it is to look after us?" Society and government fail to appreciate and honor teachers despite all the heavy responsibilities they bear. Imagine a finely tuned balance where one side rests the responsibilities of teachers and the other side the salary and recognition they receive. Instead of falling into a perfect equilibrium, the scale has tipped way over to teachers' burden. This is why increasing teacher salary is a must to fix this imbalance and properly honor and value the work teachers put in for our nation. Increasing teacher salary can also significantly improve teachers' overall well-being by allowing teachers to love their job rather than just endure it. Another teacher once claimed, "After 20 years of teaching, I cry every day on my way to work. The anxiety and depressive thoughts related strictly to teaching have made me start seeking for psychological help. I am not sure that I can stay in this job anymore. Unappreciated, unsatisfied, unmotivated. Teachers no longer work out of their passion and love for teaching, but rather requirements. This not only drains them mentally and physically, but can also accelerate burnout quickly, making them work inefficiently. The incentive theory of motivation states that proper reward is required for motivation. Increasing teacher salary will foster this love and passion for the work. And as Steve Jobs once said, the only way for you to do great work is to love what you do. Increasing teacher salary creates a healthier work environment for teachers to flourish. What once seemed like insurmountable hurdles become stepping stone for teachers to grow once they have the motivation to face all the challenges that come with teaching. Finally, increasing teacher salary can help teachers focus on their job. Studies have shown that teachers experience more stress compared to other professions. Low salaries force them to take a second job in order to make ends meet. Wistfully, another teachers need to work at 5 different community college, 3 on-ground and 2 online, as his salary does not provide him a sufficient wage to support the rising cost of living. Not only do teachers work long hours at school with bare minimum salary, they also need to work outside of school, adding extra workload towards the heavy workload they already have, leaving them with not enough time to rest. Don't you think it's disheartening that many teachers not only have bachelor's degree but master's degree and still have to hustle for their income? They constantly regret and wish they would have taken a different career opportunities. This causes unnecessary stress towards their life, impacting their well-being mentally and physically. By increasing teacher salary, teachers can make ends meet without needing a second job, thus reducing their workload and spare more time for their personal needs. Another reason why we should increase teacher salary is because it will benefit the future of our nation, since teachers directly connect with the youth who are tomorrow's leader. Fundamentally, higher teacher salary promotes higher education quality. In countries where teachers are not being paid adequately, many teachers lack the required subject knowledge and pedagogical skills, causing students to be less adequate and eventually preventing a nation's development. Increasing teacher salary will increase education quality. Teachers can spend more of their resources and time to seek for professional development. Not only does increasing teacher salary improve education quality, but also classroom supplies. Studies have shown that 94% teachers had to pay for all classroom supplies out of their pocket. This not only places further financial burden on teachers, diminishing their quality, but with low budget mean low quality of supplies. Like in the story of Three Little Pigs, teachers are the giver of the material. Without the salary to provide a strong foundation to build students' knowledge, when push comes to shove, the students' houses will be blown away by the big bad wolf. That is all the challenges they may face in life. Essentially, increasing teacher salary can help teachers construct a solid foundation to increase student learning outcomes. Moreover, increasing teacher salary can solve the problem of teacher shortage. UNESCO has estimated that the world needs 69 million more teachers by 2030 in order to meet global educational needs. Survey in 2015 shows that only 4% of high school graduates intended to become teachers. There is just no incentive to become a teacher in today's economy, where they are just scraping by to pay their bills. Imagine, years from now, CBCS, or no, a majority of schools are shut down due to a lack of teachers. Just like a dish without salt, students are not able to reach their full potential without their essential salt, which is teachers. How can students participate in a nation's development when there is no more teachers available to teach them? In summary, increasing teacher salary can help teachers to stay in the profession for extended period rather than seeking for alternative employment opportunities just because they may pay more. Another reasons why it can benefit the future of our nation because teachers shape students to be agents of change and progress. A good teacher is like a candle. It consumes itself to light the way for others. Just like a candle that lights up the darkness, teachers illuminate the mind and character of the younger generation. They do not just impart knowledge, but also moral values and life skills that will help the students in making decisions not only for the good of themselves, but for the future of our nation as well. Furthermore, this issue of teacher underpayment also significantly affects teacher teaching performance. Teachers will no longer have the enthusiasm to prepare an innovative and engaging lesson for their students. As teacher engagement declines, students will have less interest and motivation in learning, leading to poor academic outcomes and sadly limit their future career opportunities. Higher teacher salary will establish higher teaching performance. Teachers will have the motivation to adjust their teaching strategies that suit the best with the classroom material and condition, creating a learning experience where students feel encouraged to engage, questions, and think critically in class. Lastly, as Nelson Mandela once said, education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. Increasing teacher salary will increase international collaboration and make a better world for all. Current research has confirmed that increasing teacher salary will lead to economic growth. This can be seen with one of the world's most competitive economies, Singapore, claiming this title through their high quality of education. Although Singapore has limited resources, the higher education given in Singapore lets people be resourceful with what they have to reach a GDP of $106,000 per capita. The endogenous growth theory claims that economic growth is the result of internal forces rather than external forces. This suggests that investment in teacher salary will increase education quality of a nation and thus inciting economic growth and other countries to collaborate with them. This is all possible because teachers also shape their students' practical and entrepreneurial skills that will help the nation's workforce. Subsequently, raising teacher salary will increase global recognition as it reduces crime rates. Looking at the other side of the spectrum, let's take Venezuela as an example. Venezuela is considered as one of the most dangerous countries. Kidnappings, murders, civil unrest, drugs, and the most horrendous of crime you can ever think of. All this can be rooted back to the lack of education due to underpayment of teachers. Studies have shown that education reduces crime rates because of the reduction in unemployment rates. In the famous parable of the sower and the seed, the sower sows the seed in three different types of soil: rocky, thorny, and good soil. In the first and second soil, the seed fails to produce a crop. But when it falls onto the good soil, it produces a crop, 100, 60, or 30 times what was sown. Teachers are like the soil the seed depends on to grow, while students are the seeds. Higher salaries produce better teachers who go on to produce better quality students that will help the nation's workforce. All this results in higher quality citizens that are less likely to resort to criminal activity. Less criminal activity in a nation attracts more tourists to the country, which build good reputation between countries and could lead to future collaborative endeavors. Beyond tourism, increasing teacher salary will increase a nation's appeal through its education and sciences. Better education will become a magnet that pulls foreign students to study abroad and assimilate with the nation's culture. These students will then spread good word of the nation, creating a snowball effect where that attracts more foreign students to come to the host nation. This educational bond between countries will lead to collaboration between them. This is why higher teacher salaries are mandatory. Teachers will have the motivation in teaching and can invest their time and money to seek for professional development. They can also collaborate with other teachers, honing each other's skills and create a mutually supportive learning environments that will increase student learning outcomes. By this, it will also increase a nation's global rank. However, some people might believe that increasing teacher salaries is not the solution. As a wise man once said, the love of the money is the root of all evil. Increasing teacher salary will create an inverse effect and attracts people only in it for the money. Like plenty of other jobs, the teaching profession might become enticing only for the money instead of the job itself. While this may be true, money is indispensable for human survival in this world. The president of the National Education Association in the United States claimed that educators who dedicate their life to students should not be struggling to support their family. Every teacher wants to have a decent life with their family, but the salary they receive has not kept pace with the cost of living that keeps increasing. This leads to financial anxiety, a feeling of constant dread about their financial condition. Imagine you are trying to read a book in flickering lights. Every time you try to focus on the book, you get distracted by the lights. The same goes like a teacher who tries to focus on teaching, but financial uncertainty constantly distracts their mind. Barack Obama once said, "Money is not the solution, but it makes a difference." Raising teacher salary will make a big difference towards teachers' quality of life and welfare. On the other hand, people might argue that parents have more authority over their children's life. Therefore, government should instead focus on parents, such as getting parents education about being a good parent. While this critic may have been correct before, the responsibilities do not only fall on parents. Bronfenbrenner's theory proved that interaction with parents, teachers, and other individuals, such as peers or church community, strongly influence a child's development. The fact that this is like a three-legged stool, which can only be stable when its three legs supported. When one leg is removed, the stool will fragile and collapse. The fact that children spend at least one-third of their entire day at school shows that teachers play a big role in students' life. To add on, parents are not professional. They might not be able to teach students specific subjects, especially in preparing their children for college, unlike what teachers do. The large role teachers play in every single student's life deserve an increase in their salary. Upon considering all the facts, we have seen many benefits of increasing teacher salary to the health of not only teachers but the whole world as well. First, increasing teacher salary would improve teachers' overall well-being. Teachers would feel more valued and appreciated for the amount of work and responsibilities they have. Second, increasing teacher salary would help to push the nations forward because teachers are the one who educate the most leader. They are the one who guides their students and help them realize their potential, leading to a brighter future for both the students and the future of our nation. Lastly, it can make our nations more appealing to the rest of the world, helping it develop through international collaboration. Now, imagine a world where we compensate teachers properly. There will be no more teachers that need to struggle whether they can put food on the table or not. There will be no more teachers that need to take a second job. There would be no more teachers that cannot attend their best friend's wedding. No one else would have to experience what Kira Stoltenberg went through. Increasing teacher salary will create a better world. Teachers plant seeds that grow forever. This is why school institutions and government should increase teacher salary. Society should respect and value teachers. The future is in your hands. How long will you let teachers suffer like this? How long must teachers sacrifice their times and efforts for nothing? I say no more. Thank you.
Really well done, Kireina. Very nice. Let's go ahead and start the QA session. We'll start with Ms. Denise.
Okay, thank you so much for bringing this up. I'm a big advocate of paying teachers a salary that is equitable, right? Is it fair? Is it just? And I really appreciate you bringing this topic up because I think it's sometimes one that's difficult for teachers, especially if they are in a private school and a Christian organization where there's this idea that teaching is ministry. You're serving the Lord, and it can be manipulated. Don't you think that idea of you're doing this for the Lord, you shouldn't be doing that for money. And so if you have people that might refute and argue and say, well, like you said in your refutation, you shouldn't be doing this for the money. How do you balance, like, where is the line? How do you know when this is enough money and it's not enough money? I mean, how do you know how to address that? Because there is some service aspect to it as well and ministry aspect to it as well.
So comparing it to other profession, teachers actually experience more stress compared to other profession because they have a lot of workload from school itself, and because of the salary that they receive has not kept pace with the cost of living, they are forced to take a second job, which add another workload towards their life. And while comparing it to other professions workload are less than teachers. And while based on the research that I have done, teachers actually experience, based on the data that it's shown, teachers in Indonesia uh, experience pinjol, the biggest in Indonesia for
Right.
42%.
Yeah, yeah.
So this is why I said that teacher is underpaid and they need to
Right.
be paid more.
Okay, so let me ask, maybe I should have started with a bigger question, a broader question, which is, are we addressing teachers in the national schools, like public education across Indonesia? Are we talking about private education? Are we talking about both?
So I didn't put a limited scope in my thesis. So this thesis actually explore both private and government schools, and not just in Indonesia, but the whole world as well.
Right. So your scope was kind of the world, and you were referencing stories from America about not keeping up with the cost of living. So we were using kind of broad generalities, but I want you to make this a little more specific to our context. I mean, I don't think anyone in the world would argue, no, we shouldn't pay teachers very much. No one really believes that, right? We all think, yes, teachers are worth a lot. However, how do you pay for it? How do you finance that? So what is the way that you make that possible? So there's the national level of like, how do you do that from a national perspective with public education? And then there's the private level, which is the customer, the client who's got to pay tuition, right? So I guess the question I would have is, have you thought through or have you looked at, where are the finances going to come from if you want to increase salaries, around the world, but maybe specifically here?
So looking in the scope of private schools, school can get the funds from increasing tuition. However, if it's not possible for school to increase school tuition, then they can reallocate funds like bits by bits from like facilities or something, and they can put it into teacher salaries.
Yeah.
And also, government has this program called BOS in Indonesia, is Bantuan Operasional Sekolah, in which they give funds to schools, and these funds can be used for schools facility. And
Right.
the budget that is used once for this school facility can be used to increase teacher salary. While in the terms of government schools, there is also this program, the same program as the one before. And I think that government can also increase, like support teachers more, such as getting teachers also education about how being a good teachers.
Yeah. So I mean, I think those are really valid ways of trying to create the wealth to do that. Yeah, I think that it's difficult in some ways because if you look at the national scope, you've got funds already going into education. Are you saying that maybe in Indonesia specifically, are the funds not being put into the people? Are they being put into buildings and programming instead of the resource of people?
I think that although government already funded schools, like they give funds to school, however, sometimes this funds being corrupted.
So
So,
someone else is taking
yeah.
the money and it's not getting to the pocket of the teacher, maybe. Okay. Yeah, I was actually really shocked when you gave the statistic that the average Indonesian teacher, and I'm assuming this is a national public school teacher, makes 2.4 million a month. That's far below what the minimum wage is, right? So how is that possible? How are they making below what the government says the minimum wage is? I don't understand how that happens.
So, in my opinion, I think that this is because of like what's the perspective that has built in the society. So the society think that like, oh yeah, teacher educates students, but that's it. They don't realize how important teachers' role in our society is. They do not realize that teaching is actually just beyond explaining what is in the textbook, but
Right.
like uh, teachers also have to raise students' creativity,
Sure.
and not only that, they also sometimes need to deal with parents' complaint and something like that. So I think society doesn't see what's going on behind those curtains. So this is what makes teachers is being underpaid right now.
Okay. So you mentioned Singapore as an example and the model of Singapore. And I do like the Singaporean model because, as we know, they're a very small island nation and they have incredibly limited resources. Land is limited. Any kind of resource, like natural resource that they could export, is very limited because their land is actually just limited. So their largest resource is people, right? And so they've said, we're going to invest in our people. So do you have any data that shows how is the Singapore model one that could be followed? In other words, do they pay their teachers better? What's their average pay range and how does it equate with other professions?
I don't really have the data about how much teacher is paid in Singapore. However, for the fact that I know that teacher is well paid there, and it lead to a better education quality. So
Okay.
it leads to a higher human capital index that could
Right.
increase GDP of a nation.
Right. Yeah, I think I've heard that they are paid well and that the government really honors teachers and they value them and they show that through pay. But it would be interesting, wouldn't it, to know like, so what does their pay scale look like compared to other industries in Singapore, to an average businessman or a CEO of a company? Does their principal or head of school make equivalent pay scales, and what does a employee make, or a banker make compared to a teacher? That would be interesting to find out, because I think that could be a model that Indonesia could look to and say, this is a good way to develop your nation and your people resources, right? Yeah. So one final thing from me before I pass it to Pak Andi. Did you know that at CBCS, are you aware of what percent of our budget is devoted to the salary and the benefit package for our teachers?
I am not really know exactly the percentage of how much the budget goes to teacher salary. However, I know for the fact that CBCS actually has a very like a standardized payment for teachers. They have a really good finance system. So I know for a fact that CBCS will not pay their teachers carelessly and like subjectively.
Yeah, thanks. I'm glad you've at least done a little bit of homework, because one of the things, and I know Andi will speak to this probably as a school board head, perhaps, but I mean, I know just from working with them that it's a high priority for our teachers to be well paid. And, I would say that you're always balancing that with what you want to charge for parents to be able to send their students here. So if your goal is if your market is the upper wealthy, upper class, then you can charge a lot. But our market at our school is for middle class to lower middle class families. And so if you have to look at, so what is their average income? And then what could we charge that makes our tuition reasonable? And then how do we use that tuition, all that income that we're generating, in the most efficient way possible so that we are giving the greatest contribution we can to our human resources, which are our teachers. So actually, if you just want to know, 65% of our budget, of our total operational budget, is salaries for faculty and staff and their benefit packages, which I think is quite spectacular, right? So we want it to improve, but we actually do quite a good job of working to make sure we're paying teachers an equitable salary.
Okay, Metta, I really appreciate you've done good job.
Thank
okay.
you.
having to know, young people like you guys, generations wanna bring up these issues on your thesis defense, and it's really giving a hope, right? Because we know, as you said, that young people probably looking at the professions as teachers is no longer an option. The first option probably will be the last, if not the fifth, the sixth, probably. But when I read your paper thesis last night, so I just feel, wow, this is good. You're trying to push the limit. I know rhetorically you passionately to say about the salary, and it's good for young people like you guys, that I hope that you will end up and really work in education field in the future. Yeah, it's very good.
Government.
Only government. Yes. Okay. Um, there's several things I wanna ask you. Actually, this is not a questions to what do you call it? To challenge the ideas because I'm 100% I agree with the main idea, the core idea about how we have to increase the salary or more than salary actually, but the well-beings. I'd rather say the well-beings of the teachers. But in your paper, there is a sentence. I just want to make it as a discussions because every time we facing a problems, we know that problem is not only one side, it's not only one facet. There are so many facets sometimes. Just to give you some ideas, or if you have ideas about it, you said teachers will actually love their job and not just endure it. You said it like that, yeah. In the sense, like because you're talking about salary and only salary, when this sentence come up, it seems like the only thing that will make teachers love their job and not just endure it is only the salary. Do you think is that right? Or yeah, do you have any comment on it?
So to clarify that claim, I would say that uh, a lot of teachers actually have patience in teaching to begin with. However, because of the extra workload they have and they feel like they are not valued and appreciated enough by the society, they would think like, oh, why would I need to work hard for this? So like as time goes by, they would just work out of they would be demotivated and they would just work out of the requirements that the school asked them to do instead of like having initiative to make the education better.
Oh
So,
yeah,
so I don't think that actually what teachers looking for is only for salary.
yeah, that's good. Okay. So yeah, we agree that everyone comes at the first place with compassion, with passion, want to do something. Yeah, and you're saying that as the time goes by, the salary not enough, the problem come to the house, and teachers losing their passion. That's what I'm saying, right? That's totally agree. Because about loving their job, I believe it's not merely depends on the money that you have. We agree with it, right? Because I can tell those people or professions who has probably 50 times the average salary of teachers, but still they don't love their job. Even they hate it. They can say I would get bored with it. So yeah, that's the point. That's good. That's good point of view. Yeah, and there's another thing. Actually, I have the same question, but Denise, thank you, already asked it. So I skipped that one about the balance. You said in your paper about the balance, because then when I read that, I know you already understand it is not on only on one side, but you have to balance like the tuitions, the salary, the cost, the operational cost of a school will be compensated by the tuitions of the parents. That will be another challenge, another the a school, especially private school, challenge in uh, delivering the visions of the school. If the school easily just increase the tuitions, sky is the limit in the name of increasing the salary of teachers. Yeah, that's not the good point. But I know that you already understand that. Actually, I wanna ask you about this one. Do you think, yeah, why is the reason if we can see, thank God, if we can see, still can see a high quality people who are still working as a teacher right now, even though the fact that we know the salary is less than probably they can get outside. You think why?
So I think that there's still a lot of people that wants to be teachers because despite the low salary is because they actually have patience in it. Maybe they actually like teaching and they like to teach students and such. And while maybe they also have a partner or someone else that actually enough to provide decent living for their family. So I think that's one of the reason why. And not only that, I think it also comes back to their passion and teaching. I think despite them having low salary, they realized that while I came here, my purpose here is to teach, to like for ministry. So I think like that's one of the reason why teachers right now still keep their job as.
Even though I agree with Denise, that's not an excuse for Christian school, for any school to say that
pay,
because
right.
it is a ministry that
Yeah.
they don't deserve a well pay. Yeah. That's good. I think that's
Yeah,
all.
I wanted to follow up with something. So, what do you suggest governments, let's say if we're looking at this as a worldwide problem and we said that there's a global shortage in teachers and the reputation of being a teacher is so diminished because people feel I can't live, I can't meet my basic needs if I teach. And even before this problem existed now, I'll just tell you back in the day when I was at university, I was a different major before I was an education major. And Wade was an electrical engineer by his background. And that was like, ooh, really fancy and smart people only can do that, right? And then he was studying on this PhD in zoology when I met him. And I was in a different career. I was a music major. And I began realizing I don't have a passion for being a music teacher. I don't want to be a fat opera singer on the stage. And so like I want to do something different with my life, maybe not music. And where I knew that I loved working was with children. I knew that, but I was really resisting moving into the field of education because I thought only the stupid people become educators. Like if you couldn't do anything else with your life, then you went into education as your choice of major. And I remember confessing to Wade and saying, will you think less of me if I just decide to be a teacher? Like as if that was somehow not good enough. So what can governments do either education-wise, marketing, or with salaries? How can we regulate some kind of standard that says education has to be valued very highly and prioritized, and a teacher should be paid the same as a doctor or a banker or whatever the thing is, you know, in other professions in other countries? How do we begin moving that and make that change?
I think like in terms of the salary, government can like invest more of their resources to increase teacher salary or to improve our education quality. By then, like other people who actually have passion in teaching but choose not to be a teacher would be inspired again to become teachers. And while in terms of the importance of education, government can like make an awareness for all the people, all the citizens that are, oh, actually education is very important in our life, and education cannot be achieved without teachers, because like teachers is the essence in our education. So I think that would make people realize, that would help the society to respect and value teachers more.
Yeah. So very good, Kireina. I will also go back to my college days. It never occurred to me to go into education. Why? Because I knew I was going to raise a family one day, even though really teaching is what I love. I love to teach, but it never occurred to me because it didn't seem like it was a financially sound decision to be an educator. And so I do think it's a big problem, and it's always been a problem. And how do you make little steps? In other words, if we made a law tomorrow that said we got to pay teachers twice as much as we pay them now, it wouldn't work. The government would couldn't support that. Finances at the private schools would struggle. And so how do you make little steps in the right direction?
So I think we do not really need to increase teacher salary at a large amount at once. We can just, like what you said before, we can do it step by step. So increasing teacher salary little by little, and maybe we can see the progress of what's going on when we increase teacher salary, and by then we can also calculate how much salary we should increase.
Sorry. Wanted to know how do you calculate what is enough? Because nobody is going to say, "Oh, chukupla, yeah, you're paying me plenty." Like nobody's going to ever say that, right? So, what model do we use to say, here's the cost of living, here's what's a reasonable salary range? How do we determine that? Because isn't that really relative?
So I think I don't really have the exact answers on how much we should increase teacher salary. However, what I know that right now a lot of teachers is struggling to pay their rent or to pay electrical bills and something like that. So I think we should increase teacher salary to the point where they can actually pay off those things and still have some money left for their own needs.
Okay, time is up. You survived. You did a great job, Kireina. Excellent job. And that is going to conclude our thesis for 2024. You guys all did a great job. Here's what we want to do. We're going to meet Kireina and her friends and family at the backdrop for photos. And